good. Our capacity to confer value upon objects commits us to treating others as ends in themselves. What makes the object a rational choice good is that the object of rational choice, the value conferring status. View yourself as having a value conferring status must view anyone as having a value conferring status. To play this role, rational nature must be an end in itself. This means you must treat rational nature as an end, no choice of rational which violates the status of rational nature. As in all their frameworks collapse, non-contingent theory source obligations and extrinsically good objects that presuppose the goodness of the rational will. In the formula of humanity justifies innate right to external freedom possible. Can external freedom consist in directing yourself rather than being directed by other agents? Violations of the ability of others to engage self-directed action and treats one part within your whole each person's domain with which entitled control. What happens when this fear won't be able to engage in self-directed action? Each person's capacity for action justifies a national innate equal right to equal freedom or external freedom of virtue of humanity, but freedom is indeterminate in the state of nature. 2 warrants. This so far as the establishment of impartial third party yourself rates conflicts. This is the omnilateral role political 10. The mere idea that one must be able to control one's body leads to precise contours and indeterminate. For example, playing music so loudly gives you a headache kind of violating the right to your body, and no matter how precisely rules are specified, the possibility of reasonable disagreement remains. The solution lies in the establishment of impartial decision procedure for adjudicating disputes only this freedom. Thus, the standard's consistency with the omnilateral will impact how one freedoms of property, not a consequence. Adding 2 circles doesn't make anything more circular than it was before. It's like humans are free than one human. 2. There's an intent foresight distinction consequence of determined by external force. Table 20. Responsibilities my supports the outer reality was within my conscience and acting the external world is an external force which has something different. Let's carry distinct consequences for sure. The standard 1. Even if they win their framing history, that's insufficient to warrant coercion. Force can only be justified for the sake of freedom. Self-conscious and the right to freedom is an virtue of rational agency having rational nature. But it's one of the distinct exchanging justifications for actions for any value justified for what's needed, and that's why for greater happiness will be no answer. We not sure she used to accept for rational agent cannot be objectively coerced from freedom since she's going to recognize the authority of rational agency solely a virtue of acting justification regarding freedom is unimpeachable. Rational agents don't understand. To reject it 2. Abstraction key to any individual biases from affecting moral principles shall be 13. Methodological restriction is not a whitewashing of history, a way of modeling the impartial point of view, political morality, a way pertaining particular social contingencies, including injustices from biasing principles. 3. The categorical imperative requires A, that we recognize the shared capacity of others, and B, that we abstract from personal interests. Both are necessary to fight oppression. 4. Some have found this abstract notion of rational beings problematic. These are taken to mean that rationality is necessarily white, male, and European. I found this puzzling. For the abstraction requirements, the demands and the misor competent differences. We recognize ourselves in the other, and the other ourselves. We recognize in the other capacity for self-determination. Second, avoid egoism. One must abstract one to a personal interest and subjective acts. Instead of principle contributes racist ideology. To the extent that racist ideology is based on the use of persons of a different races means to another other than as ends in themselves. Advocacy. I defend the resolution as a general principle. Specification and picks are relevant to the apposite disprove my general thesis, but I'll defend normal means for all questions of implementation for the sake of negating links. Also be some specs, since you can just cut it for whatever normal means is on it. D-link. Contention. Crimes constitute unilateral exemption from the omnilateral world, which requires a person response to punishment or 09 bracket. If the criminal is punished species committed a crime, the criminal means that are inconsistent with the system of equal freedom, not inconsistency for grounds for purging those crimes, not interest in critical consider about the normal structure of property. Criminal choice means inconsistent with the rule of law, and so when it should be unilaterally determined which means are available here, rather accepting the omnilateral judgment of public law. If unilateral choice can cancel omnilateral law, there could be no omnilateral law that compellingly affects with property grounds. Criminalizing theft is a matter of public law. The criminal safe person chooses remaining to state of nature, and this requires that punishment be proportional to the crime. We've seen on the attributive principle requires excluding the wrongdoer from civil society. Punishment will be a form of exclusion. Only way to exclude someone is to physically confine the length of the prison term is proportional to the gravity of the wrong. But plea bargaining undermines this and entails providing disproportionate punishment. Slogan 16. Plea bargaining results in disproportionate punishments. Bargaining worth must be significant as the burden between the sentence results or within the sentence results from trial. The trial penalty can be 3 to 4 times the plea bargaining deal rather than pursue the justice position. Plea bargaining court prosecution willing to see 2 entirely different sentences, at least one of which will be disproportionate. Negotiate tension will be significantly lower than deserved dictate, and the efficiency becomes the preeminent concern. And usual impacts don't link. The sovereign's only job is to uphold the omnilateral will, not pursue private purposes. Repeating around, if failed to punish the convicted criminal to exempt itself from the rule of law. The sovereign cannot exempt itself from procedure for private purpose because the sovereign is not a private actor. The sovereign is not omnilateral world. Its only purpose is inherent in the idea of the original contract. So the sovereign has no discretion of the incidental pursuit of fellow punishment. He treats coercive powers and instrument and do wrong in high street, even in the form of a single exception. And my often tell ways, even if trials are perfect, plea bargaining is always worth shifting. For obviously conditions are met is not the issue. The facts are not the right way. Prohibition on punishment without fault becomes fungible. Any procedure will lead to wrongful condition, but a decision to dispense with the department of guilt does not simply accept wrongful conditions, but embrace it on the right. And the right to trial cannot be alienated. This means plea bargainings are inherently unjust for obscene. The content exception of constitutional rights conceived of those rights as unconditional. There's no space for action whether conditions will apply as much as the state cannot give itself. All the people cannot give itself fundamental human rights of the conditions of the state constituting itself as an omnilateral will. Under B, first advocates wonder if theory and drop the debater, otherwise the net can be infinitely abusive. The app has no recourse. Drop the debater. Drop the debater is key. The 4-minute one error is too short to have a shot on both theory and substance, so they must be punished. Second, fairness outweighs all their impacts. A point evaluation. If I was to keep engaging you, that means you don't know if those arguments are true in the first place. B point is decision making. Every argument they may concede the validity of fairness, i.e. that the judge will fairly evaluate their argument without interfering, which also means if they win fairness bad, that means you should vote affirmative. If that's unfair. Next, framework case are a reason to reject the framework, not a reason I should lose. That just proves that I used the wrong framework. That just means we should adopt their framework for evaluating the resolution. Next, epistemic use ethical competence. Modesty causes intervention because the judge turns into a calculator. Also, my offense independently always under modesty because court card says that humans are unconditionally valuable under constant violation. Treating them as a means is an infinite impact and interpretation. Negative must concede the actual role of value, which is determine the desirability of the resolution through post-fiat policy calculus. This means that it can defend the score or any alternate policy option for 8 point is around anything else meets the exponents of 1AC, which forces a 1 error restart, which makes up for me a policy with a short 1 error. Skip the B point education. Even if politics is bad scenario analysis, politics is pedagogically valuable and enhances creativity, deconstruct biases, and teaching advocacy skills. Barnwell 16 scenario analysis justifies current tries to alternative world type futures, make scenario analysis useful the ability to consider mutually managed constrained by existing mental models in cognitive bias scenarios that help individuals break out of conventional modes of thinking and vision. There right now is something different from the present participants on strategies for going fellows. Your creativity from anticipating understanding international affairs. D point their offense is not unique. They can just read their role about when they're out. Also, they should lose. They didn't disclose any of the case arguments or any of the arguments they put on case. They just disclosed off case positions, which doesn't meet the requirement that Beats has the example he gave, which J has wiki, which discloses the entirety of the 1 and C constructive, which wasn't disclosed, and affirming is harder. 8 point or actually skipped. That's fine.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Let's talk about like the disclosure theory argument. It was like a clerical error. If you knew that I forgot to disclose this, why didn't you just tell me? Okay. Didn't mean to not do that. Like, my bad. Sorry. Okay, let's move on then. So the non-unique argument at the bottom, you said that we can read a different roll of the ballot when we're asked.
Yeah.
So why does that mean that we have to do scenario planning in this round uniquely then?
This is just a terminal defense to give your rule about things. Like,
no, so my question is then, if we have to always talk about like policy making and like
always,
other rounds solve, why didn't other rounds not solve for talking about policy making?
No, this is just a reason to prefer our fairness and education offense. So like the argument is that if you have like some other role of ballot you want to read, then you can just read that when you're asked, but it's more important for us to be able to get to choose the role of ballot.
Okay. Let's talk about the okay, so you say plea bargaining is bad because it forgoes the right to a trial, right?
Yeah, it's one of the arguments.
Okay, what is the other offense?
The other offense is the retributism arguments. Do you want me to go through them?
Yeah, sure.
So that's the Slobogan evidence that indicates there are a couple warrants. But first is that plea bargaining ensures that the sentence is disproportionate because the only way that a defendant will accept the plea bargain is if it's significantly different than what it would have been at trial. The second argument is that the prosecutor's job is no longer to uphold the unilateral will by pursuing desert, rather to just seek the most efficient option, which means even if you win that plea bargains coincide with desert, it's a question of sort of what is intrinsic to what prosecutors are doing in terms of upholding the unilateral will.
Sure. So a lot of these seem to be consequences of the current plea bargaining system as reasons why it's bad. No, it's not built into the plea bargaining system that any of this stuff exists. So insofar as all of your intent-based offense is based on the consequences of plea bargaining, I don't understand why it's
I disagree. I think the two warrants I just explained are intrinsic to plea bargaining.
No, they're not. It's not a rule in plea bargaining to do either of those things. Rather, it's just like you can negotiate. What part of plea bargaining inherently is like it has to be this way?
Plea bargaining necessitates that there is a different sentence from what there would have been at trial, which is inconsistent with retributivism.
Why? Why does it necessitate that there has to be a different sentence?
Because if it was the same sentence as it would have been at trial, that wouldn't be a plea bargain.
Why not? They can say that they're going to give you the same sentence of the plea bargain.
The whole point of a bargain is that they're exchanging.
I'm not saying it's a smart, I'm not saying it's a smart bargain, but it's not inherent to the bargain.
If what happens is they plea and they get the same sentence, then that's not a plea bargain, that's just pleading guilty. If it's a plea bargain, that necessitates that the prosecutor gives something up, which necessarily entails that it's different from what would be the just desert.
Sure.
You starting prep?
Yeah. 227 also.
How many sheets of paper do I need? You said 227 left?
Yes.
Will it be UDF or like the case proffer?
What?
Under UDF or case proffer first?
It'll start on like the contention.
Cool. Let me see.
Everyone else did. Their philosophical orientation approaches a world from the view from whatever that abstraction away from historical injustice. Their firm premise on the idea we can generate universe and worlds based on shared features of humanity. These propagates a Eurocentric worldview 404. Philosophy's universal claims about the human condition systematically limits the experience of the oppressor without considering the way the consciousness developed in the oppressing assumption the race system place in philosophy universality forces it to dismiss the particulars of one's experience. The charges of Western philosophy is disinterested about a philosopher assumes that his or her entered the universe without fully examining the geographical, racial, cultural, and class bases without interest. Philosophy itself is colored by the last one like this of traditional philosophy to make itself invisible in this form colored by the constructed by social intelligence and perspective. Black people not only relevant but white racism gives it status and normativity, which makes racism inevitable and impossible to challenge heavily. 4. Whiteness masquerades in normativity, the norm is socially acceptable. Blackness are seen pathological whites shape their means to attitude and qualities characteristic which breed abstract individualism. Institutions of society were historically constructed on the basis of white privilege and black exclusion. White institutions are seen as institutions beyond which in opposition to race specific policies and inherent compensating historical the form of advocating colorblindness such as equal treatment regardless of race formalistic spin. Article the consequences that always the blacks are seen as symmetrical relation of whiteness practice the club of equality, impartiality, and equal treatment, and whiteness cannot be dismantled through analytical philosophy. Argumentation of whiteness has already set the terms of debate. We should have to debate about what constitutes oppression through theorizing instead, which is suspend white epistemology and refuse their conception of ethics, which answers the 2 4 cards that they read in the case Headley 4. Geological suspension of whiteness and rational argumentation proves the phase of the centuries that old social proof of whiteness appeals to objectivity, formal equality, and procedural justice. Suspension of ethical and inability of rationally inscribed as suspension of universal discipline. Whiteness cannot be dismantled through rational and analytical means. The suspension is the form of refusal to prolong the ontological project of whiteness, where it defines a natural conception of what cannot be innocent, transcended whiteness, expose a secret career of whiteness in maintaining racial privilege. And realization that these things can be otherwise and hold them accountable for their earning world, their perpetuation. Anti-blackness should lose them debate as a question of pedagogy and what you should endorse as a judge. You should not endorse racist ideologies. It's a reason why the Speech Act of the 1AC was bad and something that you should reject. If you prove that one thing is bad in the 1AC, it is not a teacher would just fail you. They wouldn't have to submit a new paper for you, which takes out all of your arguments about why the case shouldn't be isn't a reason why you should lose. Case 4. Reification includes a constructive form of forces of whiteness, and it hedges the process of white world-making, associated with the knowing and being is difficult to encourage whiteness as a power to create an elaborate social subterfuge. The epistemological framework of whiteness seeks to black people is inferior to the visions of participants in racist institutionalistic therapy. Actions of whiteness created a distorted black body through the use of theories that reinforce a certain black internalized white ways of constructing the world and think of themselves as uncivilized. Hedge of white ways of knowing includes the ways of being and false prey into the whiteness epistemological modes of being devoid of ontological depth. Next up. Counterplan tax criminal justice system within the United States should adopt plea-based ceilings based on code. Contention 1 is theory. The plaintiff on this counterplan is not plan inclusive, doesn't eliminate any form of plea bargaining system restrictions on how trial sentences relate to plea bargaining offers. Second, the counterplan competes a mutual exclusivity. You can abolish plea bargains and reform how they work at the same time. Supreme Court of Illinois v. The legislature having created the position and may alter its terms and abolish it entirely, being that benefits any elimination of bargaining links to the just out of rational policymaking, whatever can the risk when the counterplan solves the case. The value of solvency through the lens of sufficiency and the assholes. of the counterplan is enough to solve the advantage. Skip 3. Contention 2 is solve the counterplan. Solve the case and avoid this at PPC. The limits on prosecutor discretion, encourage transparency, the equity and plea. Offers an index system, a fixed discount system, which is the opposite of what the counterplan does. Covey 98. And a fixed discount consists of the discount of guilty pleas is inevitable, is invariable. Does variability undermines the very purpose of the fixed discount. So plea cases that offer a solution to the court problem by limiting the prosecutor's ability to offer such a deep that PPC is a very system. Defendants will not be able to receive a sentence following conviction based on a more severe than any other plea. Offer adjusted upward to appropriate fixed discount of the PPC memories of which conventional fixed discounts you accepted it works backward as ceiling. Since the defendant would know exactly what a risk were declining in the system, PPC would curtail the prosecutor's ability to induce the defendant in a weak case of the plea guilty because the prosecutor is bound by whatever plea offer she makes. It is very hard for her to make an offer that is sufficiently lenient to induce the defendant into a weak case to plead guilty. PPC's eliminated the power of lenient plea offers to induce guilty sentences. Weak case to written plea agreements facilitate enforcement and disputed terms. Must include all terms. Skip the next card. Yeah. Freedom mandates pleas and links best to their framework. Hold them accountable to process only the principal matters of the empirical reality of pleas should be irrelevant under their framework. Easterberg, 92. Everyday people choose and often people choose and anchors how bizarre the legal system routinely put persons in jail for 20 years while the agents first had to deny them the right to compromise. The plea bargaining itself is easier to justify precedent, so established which is one of the perennial attacks on plea bargaining that the bargaining system is a norm. A reduction in the number of convictions attributed to decline and a number of pleas that would dramatically increase the effective disparity in the treatment of prisoners. Speculative plea guards are compromises, autonomy, and efficiency support the imperfections in bargaining reflect the imperfections of an anticipated trial. Their only argument is that there is some sort of discrepancy between the two, but the majority of their uniqueness evidence is about how the way that they're implemented is bad, not how that they are inherently bad. And he said the plea bargains wouldn't be plea bargains if you're just if there's no distinction between what the actual sentence would be and what it would be. But no, that is still a form of plea bargaining. It's a terrible plea bargain because it would gain nothing from it, but it's still that, which means that it's not inherently anything bad about it, which means that you should just put a neg on presumption because they have not proven that anything inherent about the concept of plea bargaining is something that is bad. The contention level where he read the case stuff. You say abstraction is good because we're able to get rid of individual bias, but this begs the question because our argument is that abstraction is a form of individual bias created by white people. That you have to win the K-links to be able to win this argument. We've already done that work on the critique. You can extend the first K-link to answer this. You say recognition of universality, and we're able to fight oppression because we have universal principles, but that's our exact argument that a recognition of universality it begs the question of universal for whom. It is not for people of color, rather it's for white people. You say that fixed principles are good, but it begs the question of who those principles were created to help. Our argument is that they were created to help white people. Now, the underview arguments. Give us any responses to 1AR theory implications instead of all these fairness arguments. We didn't read theory in this speech, so we should get new responses. Then we haven't triggered any of their impacts. You say case means that you just reject the framework. We already did that work on the Yancey card. It's a question of your pedagogical orientation. If you did something racist on the round, like say the N-word or something, that is something you should lose. Similarly, it's a question of your representations and things like that. You say interpretation that we have to defend a policy option. We meet this interpretation because we did defend a policy option. It doesn't say that we can also not defend things that are outside of that, which means that your interpretations. But second is that second is that it's key for us to be able to check sort of different worldviews, which is a unique form of analysis that we're not able to get in other forms. Our interpretation of the topic doesn't occlude us being able to talk about policy options. Rather, it's saying that there are other ways to view it. It's like an a priori question about whether or not you are racist or not. And also we outweigh on the role of the judge. That's the Yancey card that says that you have to have a pedagogical orientation as an educator against racism, which takes that away from your argument.
Quickly before I start, so the only card you read on case, you didn't read
it was just the top.
Just the top card, and then which cards you skipped?
I skipped this the 3 point and the first part of the counterplan. And
like the terms text.
Yeah.
You read everything else.
And I didn't read the last card in counterplan.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Status the counterplan.
Conditional.
Okay. The critique, if we don't use ideal theory, what do we use instead?
So our argument is that we should stop sort of endless ethical debates about what is sort of the right ideal theory. Rather, I'm answering the question.
Okay,
rather, we know that things like racism and oppression are bad, and we start from the point of view of those who are oppressed and work from those sort of conceptions of reality and understand the way that their epistemologies and their views of the world inform the way that they come about it.
Is oppression always bad?
Yes.
Okay, how is that not a universal moral principle?
Okay, our argument is about sort of theorizing and creating sort of rules based on that. So our argument is that
so
like
we shouldn't have a rule
Rex,
that repression is always bad?
You're not like letting me finish any
Okay,
questions.
go ahead.
So okay, so our argument is that sort of theorizing and being like we have an omnilateral will and we have to have rationality, etc. The underpinnings of these arguments are ways to exclude people of color by creating hoops for them to jump through to be able to qualify to be part of systems of morality.
Okay.
So our argument is that we already know that
what's the net benefit to the counterplane?
The net benefit of the counterplane is choice.
Oh, just the turn on case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is a plea-based ceiling?
Okay. So the counterplane does a couple of things. So a plea-based ceiling is basically that they have to put like sort of restrictions on how long they can like make people go to jail for rather. So like if it's like a petty drug crime, they can't be like, oh, we're gonna give you 100 years.
Okay. What are those
rather.
restrictions?
So it kind of goes through like this, like they have like a mathematical formula for doing it. So it's adopted at a fixed discount of 33%. So they can only sentence them to 33% of
Higher.
whatever.
Okay, higher or lower? Okay. Okay, the K. I guess back to the K. If I have a bad framework, why is that a reason I should lose?
It is okay, so our argument is that you cannot separate justifications for why something is true from what you advocate or what you said in a round. Rather, you should be held accountable for
Wait, I have a
things that
question.
you said.
So, if you read a util framework, that doesn't mean I lose. We just evaluate the round under util. Why can't we just evaluate the round under your framing of taking lived experience of the oppressed?
Our argument is that your orientation towards this topic and the way that you read your app is something that is bad. We say your scholarship is bad. That's the reason you should lose.
The app underview, do you get new responses to everything?
We said that we get new responses to like theory stuff.
So, like the paradigm issues, or?
So like it would be like the fairness comes first stuff, the 1AR theory stuff.
Okay, that's fine.
And like I guess if we extend the intro stuff as theory, we would get responses. So.
Okay, that's fine. What was the warrant for that?
Because theory arguments are couched in us having violated something, so we can't move on to something if we haven't violated yet.
If they're paradigm issues,
it's like
wait, if they're paradigm issues, how does that, like, how can you violate a paradigm issue?
Because we can contextualize, we could be like paradigm issues is good in this one instance. It's like reading a disad without a link, like we can't contextualize our answers without knowing what the link is.
If I straight turn, like, the K, can you kick out of it? Because there's no, is it just like a disad to the app?
What?
Because you don't have an alternative on the K. So if I straight turn it, can you kick out of it?
No, the K does have an alternative.
Oh, what's the alternative?
It's the answer.
Okay, what's the, can you give me an alternative text?
Like an exact text, like the text would be to reject the 1AC and embrace like an ideology or religion.
Okay, and that's also conditional?
Well, yeah, it's
okay, they're both conditional. Okay.
Actually, no, that one's unconditional. Take that back.
Okay, that one, but the other one's still conditional. I used 154. 2 new off app underview. Yeah, Larry. 2 new off app underview. Case proper, then the K, and then like maybe the counterplan, but I'll just address the counterplan on the case. I'll send it. Yeah. 2 new off.
Okay.
App underview.
Okay.
App contention.
Okay.
Critique.
And where did you say you were addressing the counterplan?
I'll just like the case extensions will address the counterplan. I'll do like all the framework K interaction on the K.
Okay. The doc you sent is blank.
Yeah, it was sent.
The doc is blank.
Oh, wait, actually? Oh, that's weird. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, fix that now.
Okay, that was sent. Let me know when everyone's good.
Okay.
Now are you good?
Nope.
Okay. Interpretation debaters must specify the status of all advocacies in their speech. To clarify, you must explicitly state whether advocacies are conditional, unconditional, or dispositional in your 1 and C, and if it's dispositional, you must say the conditions violation. You can prefer 1 perhaps. If you wait till 6 to clarify, lose the entire D&T, which is 7 is to prep answers. I don't know if I should go for a case, I'll wait to read through your key fairness since you know the AC is unconditional and have the entire certificate which will prep, so I need to be able to prep during the NC2 key to education, so I'll have left time to think the quality arguments. 2 shots, the after gets asked and CX, and there should be now the next incentivized to make it condo in the 200 K out of 1 hour reference, which destroys class and education specking speed. It is always better because it guarantees it won't happen. Next up. Interpretation. Neg advocacies must be unconditional or dispositional, with the condition being they have to go for it. If straight turn violation, the counterclaims conduct no benefits 1 reciprocity. I can't kick out straight turn benefits to my FCI advantages. If they can kick out straight turn benefits to their advocacy by kicking the counterclaim reciprocal access to offense and structural skew that always be some of these can be overcome by better rating. Second is advocacy skills. They're incentivized to kick out a counterclaim whenever they make good answers to, which means they never have to defend their advocacy against the best objections. Also links to the clash which controls the internal link to any of their education because it's not valuable if we're not clashing on the competing interps. 1 reasonability is arbitrary invites to race the bottom. 2 collapse the competing interps use offense defense value of the competing interps reasonability which concedes the authority of competing interps. No more yes on 1 or 3 negative 6 minutes to stick me with the interest, which makes any recourse impossible. Now the AFN review. Extend that 1 error theory, AFCAS 1 error theory, and it's drop the debater. Obviously, you don't get new responses to paradigm issues because paradigm issues aren't something they evaluate. Also, that causes a massive time to kills clash because they're incentivized to just sandbag in the 200. These arguments were clearly labeled, and they obviously could have answered. Could have answered it. All answered like the. They conceded that fairness comes first. You can't evaluate if any of their arguments are true. If I was skewed from engaging with it, also means if they make new 200 responses, I get 2 error responses because that's the only way to evaluate. Now, AFC they don't need a counter interpretation, which means if I was competing interps, I automatically win. The second is that they definitely don't meet our interpretation because it says you must concede to a role about, but by reading a separate policy, that means you didn't, and that moves the entire. You conceded that moves the entirety of the 1 AC cross-apply fairness first, which takes out your argument about checking different roles. You also conceded it's not unique because you can just read your role about when your app which checks back. Now, sentence the app. You conceded that plea bargaining entails disproportionate sentencing. The only way that bargaining works is if the sentence is different from what it would have been at trial. You say that like they could make a presumption because they could just plea bargain to have the exact same sentence, but no, that's not a plea bargain. That's just pleading. That's just pleading guilty. The definition of bargaining is when the prosecutor gives something up in exchange. Also, the counterclaim uniquely links because it still ensures that there is going to be a discount on it. The libertarianism turn doesn't make sense because they consider that criminals give up their right to be able, or criminals give up their right to be, they've committed a crime, which means the only possible response is proportional punishment. Now the K. I'll just do the interaction here. You've considered shall be evidence abstraction is key to prevent individual biases from affecting ethics. You say it begs the question: is universality a form of bias? But obviously not. If we're saying that this applies to all people, that means that we're able to overcome particular circumstances. For example, if you say that we should just focus on material conditions of oppression, that allows like white supremacists to be like there's reverse racism, and you need some systematic notion of and some sort of abstraction to be able to say like no, you're wrong. That's obviously silly. You say universalizability for whom, but it's just saying that historically it's been used wrong, but that doesn't prove that it's intrinsically. That doesn't mean that that is necessary to theory, and the act form of universalizability is able to solve back. Now the sheet. Ideal theory just obscure injustices, rather finds the principles to condemn the under status quo. 12b13 most agree their ongoing racial injustice. He thinks that walls and others properly identify the principles to condemn these ongoing racial injustices. Perhaps wants to write the arriving at precisely formulated, systematically developing, fully compelling answers. Racial question of ideal theory is not our most critical philosophical need. However, if we concede all these claims do not need to show that ideal theory is ideological. What ideal theory does give a way to specify and defend racial justice principles that are private individuals and state officials can use who value institutional arrangements. And non-ideal theory collapses because it presumes an account of justice that is deviated from 12b13. Justice are conceptualized as deviation from the ideal principles of justice, and injustice justice is a failure arranged to satisfy ideal principles of justice. A charge of injustice presupposes ideals of justice. Such deviation can be small or great depending on the size and nature of the gap between ideals and practice of remedies will be required. Also, this is just a reason to reject my prayer, because that's key to substantive education, because we can just talk about what's best for solving material conditions of oppression, which solves their offense, and absolutely bringing the policy of partiality becomes unsustainable. The app opens up space for decolonization, exposing contradictions of law, higher creative crisis by establishing tensions of forced society, confrontational justice. The assertion would overwhelm the gene throw of mass incarceration and crisis and force the government to action to remedy racial injustice. Injustice. You had like 227, I think.
What did you say was like 227?
Yeah, I wrote it down.
It's 227.
Yeah, 227.
It'll be the spec status stuff, then condo, then the underview stuff that the AF went for, then the K.
Are you going to like case proper at all, or just the end? Okay. I'm good.
Do status first and then condo.
Yeah, that was the order.
Yeah, that was the order.
Is everyone good? Counter-interpretation negative must tell the status of any advocacy read in the NC when asking cross-examiner how to specify during the 1AC speech and solves all their offense. They have to answer the off regardless of them. Regardless of the style, telling them in cross-ex, it still gives them all present adjusted strategy to speech. They can probably answer the pull-up blocks. And also, we could just tell them in the last 1 second of our speech, and they could just ask the question in the first 1 second of cross-ex, which means that there's no net benefit to their interpretation because it means that it will be circumvented either way. Offense, when the NC is a precisely tactical speech itself, which means that they should be able to get adapt their strategy based on how much I get through. I can cut it off and not make it a 3-sentence case argument said it just had the effect of status of kind of this are ways because it puts a negative pigeonhole them into a potentially incoherent or silly strategy. It also means that the confusion is inevitable. The next will change the status of the speech, change the status at the end of the speech. If they do something at which point the status comes down to confusion paradigm issue, so cross is way more quick. Second, this incentivizes the negative reading because at the end of the speech, which has less time to organize thoughts, and also proves that the introvert doesn't help because it won't get that much time during the speech to address for the sounds of negative advocacy at the end. The straight trends, they're often common. Counter-interpretation that may have one condition content at the time point, they must make a 1 and a 2 and R1. All arguments are conditional. There's no way for change to go for every possible argument. So they kind of concept one argument that is conditional is arbitrary. No arguments don't listen at all. This distinction is second counter-interpretation is larger often because after being happens by the end of the day, in the last page they have to fully develop their arguments again. One advocacy theory, multiple terms solved. You can get as many conditional advocacy terms or you can work with the interesting conditional ones that also prevent such a crystallized impact because it makes terms interact with net benefit. Education offers one term. We try to arguments that advocacy skills and how policymakers and the real world function know rational policymakers should reinforce issues between two policymakers that works on the status quo. They would just do the status quo logic policymaking, key decision making. So why we need to wait? Don't view it as a game. Don't view it as a game because there's a winner. It's not merely for the interesting, but we're learning how we can better make decisions. We wouldn't pick up worse than the status quo. And deciding the voters ask why do I debate a term and actually skip that. And also fairness. One counter interpretation solves I limit the one I teach to advocacy towards the choice of the 2 and R. So this means only time 2 and another limit 2 R means the links are so that any impact outweighs the second term. The aspect of the plan the firm do both have the negative statement means the counterplan and the status quo to do neither option. Key to birth strategy, strong external link to fairness. They counter term as false advocacy. The entire one is to be designed to criticize status quo. Adding a status quo is uniquely and harmful because you can win just as to the counterplan should be easy to win because the status quo is back and the counterplan is after the after the quo isn't it turn the advocates infinite terms and so they have time to show advocacy. First, I see that fairness comes first because we're not able to engage or know whether or not the truth comes with the one I see or true. First of all, he's conceded that we get new responses to this argument because we don't know what the links are to those arguments because it's a theory argument. Second is that the Yancey card answers this because it's a question of what the judge as a pedagogical educator should be. It is a question of being anti-racist. Rather, we should view the round as a question of accessibility and who is able to enter the sphere in the first place, which internal link turns all your fairness arguments because fairness is inaccessible if people don't join the space in the first place. Second, you say you're not able to determine whether or not things are true. This is obviously a false argument because people are able to make arguments against things when things are super unfair all the time. For example, someone could read 17 counterclaims and people are still able to determine the truth claims of arguments regardless of whether or not it was fair, which means that this argument is obviously false. You say you're not able to engage fairness. Weird answer that with Nancy. We'll do more of that on the K. The interp at the bottom. Your interpretation was just that we have to have some sort of competitive policy option that we should evaluate what the post-beyond offense is and talk about that sort of stuff. Our argument wasn't a role of the ballot, rather is a role of the judge and how you should orient yourself towards viewing the round, which means that we didn't violate this in the first place. If you were going to read stupid theory arguments, maybe you should make sure they're semantical at least. And the second argument is that you said that we have to read some sort of policy, but we don't have to go for that policy. So we did read a competitive policy option. We're not going to go for the counterclaim, but we still met your interpretation. We still talked about the post-beyond consequences. There's no reason why this has to be the arbiter of the entire debate, right? If we bring the role of the judge claims, this takes us out because role of the judge comes before role of the ballot because it's a question of your individual obligation as someone who is adjudicating the round, which comes before role of the ballot. No new role of the ballot versus role of the judge stuff in the last speech. If you read a bad theory interview, you shouldn't get to recontextualize in that speech. Okay. Extend far over a philosophical text explain morality via self-constrained illogical proofs which ignore the individual experience of historical context and subtraction from materialism creates a privilege view from nowhere, which is minorities that extend headley white philosophy discussed itself as objective normativity in order to tell black folks that their actions are simply immoral. Black is ontologically defined in opposition to white normativity, and white philosophers constructed their philosophies for position of privilege even their arguments are logically correct. We have to be skeptical because it's non-European voices were never included in the creation of their principles. To vote negative is a way to interrogate philosophical claims. It's epistemology and to the way that their theories were created, and also extend heavily to the structure of whiteness is never shaped by analytical philosophy. We meant to protect white and justify their actions currently, and their actions by obfuscating and making it impossible for people to access different forms of morality, which takes out your two Shelby cards because even if in theory they're able to be applied, they're always excluded. Black people are always excluded from that discussion, and they're never able to be part of that discussion. For example, you say oh, the Constitution is great in the 1AC, and you say that we should just use current things like mandatory minimums to determine whether or not things are ethical, which excludes black people from the get-go, which is an active example of the 1AC, making it so that people cannot engage with them. Extend the Yancey 04 argument that their scholarship is a voting issue. White as epistemology perpetuates black inferiority, only rejected other claims can offer liberation. It's a question of how you orient yourself towards the brand. If we prove that they have if we prove an epistemology dissent to the way that they constructed and how they justified their plan, that is a reason they should lose. It's like if you say the N-word, you should lose that, and you should lose for saying that, because it's an active form of advocacy to say something is true because of X, which takes out, it's only a reason to reject their framework. You say plea bargaining is good. We don't make a normative claim about plea bargaining. The alternative is consistent with plea bargaining potentially, which means they don't get to leverage the case being good. Rather, it's a question of, was your philosophy something useful? They've lost epistemology indicts. At worst, they conceded that we should include black people's voices.
204 starting now. Can I see like your comment stuff?
Yeah. I didn't delete any of it. Like a lot of it was text. The intro.
You mean marketplace by ideas, right? You just read the first one?
Yeah, I did the marketplace.
Wait, where did you cut these? You just read up to after its infinite terms?
Yeah, but I need like one analytical argument after that.
What was the analytical argument?
The argument was that it's like uniquely fair because we only defended one conditional like post-fiat plan, which is what you told us to defend.
Oh, okay. Okay. Half underview, condo, and then basically. Everything good? Very good. You've conceded to reject new 200 arguments. It creates a massive time skew and incentivize them to sandbag in the 200. They can just sandbag for 30 seconds like they did here, and I have no opportunity to respond to the 200, which means you automatically prefer my arguments. There is no reason why they couldn't have responded. They had read Yancey in the 1 and C and obviously could have made those interactions in the 1 and C, which means you should err affirmative in this debate. But independently, you've conceded that I'm skewed from engaging in any of their arguments. They can't cross-apply the Yancey evidence because if I was skewed because they read a conditional advocacy, that means that you can't even. I didn't have enough time, and I wasn't able to formulate a strategy to be able to answer Yancey in the first place, which takes it out their accessibility arguments. That also takes out their accessibility arguments. They say you can still determine truth claims. The point is that you're still skewed from evaluating those truth claims. Now, the overview is that disposals the entirety of their offense. Group all their arguments about permutations. If I read a permutation under my interpretation, you can kick out of the counterplan because my interpretation says that only if I straight turn it. However, if I make a permutation, that means that you can extend the permutation and non-unique the straight turn. So that takes out literally all of your perms arguments. You say all arguments are conditional, but no. The point is that if you straight turn an off advantage, then I can't kick out of it, and you can win the round off of that. However, if I straight turn a net benefit to your advocacy by straight turning the counterplan, you can kick out of that offense, which means that you have more winning conditions than me. That's a conceded structural skew. You conceded that always because it means you have structurally more access to the ballot. Fairness outweighs education. A point is that it controls the internally. If I'm skewed from engaging, that means we don't get valuable educational discussion. Specifically, we don't get advocacy skills if I don't have the ability to form a strategy to answer your counterplan in the first place. You point out ways on reversibility. You can always read literature, rebuttal readers later, but an unfair decision is permanent. I've already done the reciprocity extension. You say adding skills. One note impact. If we really cared about real world, we wouldn't do things like spread and have 45-minute rounds. Second is turn mind trip is the perfect middle ground, because if I have really good answers to the counterplan and I straight turn the counterplan, you should be able to defend it, so you become a better advocate. If you're able to just kick out of it whenever we make good answers to it, that means you're become a terrible advocate for your position, because you're just going for whatever I at least covered. You say why? Ask your closing question of why you do debate. I do debate to win, so this argument it doesn't make any sense. You say there are only two advocacies, but all of my arguments above answer this. You say the app is designed to criticize it, but the point is that if I straight turn it, you can still kick out of it, which is uniquely abusive and irreciprocal. These arguments just justify why maybe like something like dispo is good, or some sort of flexibility is good. But ask yourself the question of why they need the ability to be able to kick out of straight turn arguments on the counterplan. That's fine. Another critique. They conceded the Shelby evidence non-ideal theory collapses to ideal theory, which non-uniques literally the entirety of all their arguments. All their arguments about certain groups being excluded presume that there's some sort of norm of justice that they're being excluded from, which is our argument that it collapses. Any sort of argument about injustice presumes there is a count of justice that the injustice is being deviated from, which means the link to the critique is inevitable, which is terminal defense. Ask yourself the question of what the alternative is to ideal theory. If we are able to give you a systematic account of how to combat oppression, that is always going to be net preferable. They say we take the lived experience of the press, but the ideal theory contextualizes what lived experiences matter in the first place. They're just like, we should care about expression. Yes, we should, but the best way to do it is a systematic theory. You can see it as inevitable.